Hey, John, it's the beginning of the year. It's a great time to think about, am I maxing out all the different savings plans? In this episode, we're going to talk about 5 different things you can check to make sure you're saving the maximum amount of possible in the best places. Hi, I'm Bridget in Vermont, and I've got a family financial planning practice in Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm John Shear. I've got a fee-only financial planning practice in Middleton, Wisconsin. And before we jump into financial hygiene for the new year, I want to remind everybody to hit that subscribe button to help other people find this information on YouTube. And with that, let's jump in, Bridget. I tend to think a lot about the year-end things, right? Stuff to get done before it's too late. Love this idea of what do we do now that we're at the beginning? Being proactive is probably a much better stance. So I'm looking forward to hearing what's on your list today.
I actually learned this from clients. Get it done at the beginning of the year in January is a great time to just make sure it's all checked off your list. So, first item is make sure you're maxing out your 401k. And so, this is an interesting one because there's a new opportunity this year. We did a whole episode on it. And this is the new opportunity is for people. And I got to proudly count myself one of them is people between the age of 60 and 63 can even contribute more this year. And so make sure you check the maximum contribution. And we're just going to talk about this for 401k. For younger people is 23,500. For people between 50 and 59 and older than 64 plus, is the catch-up contribution is 7,500. And if you're in the magic area, 60 to 63, it's an extra, the catch-up contribution is 11,250.
What I really love is how simple it is, right? You don't have to think about anything except for one number, except for the other 17 numbers we got to remember with this thing, right?
Exactly. It's like anyway, I'm not going to talk policy on that. So that's the situation. So you want to check with look at your payroll, make sure that it's correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's great.
So that's our first one. The next savings opportunity I like is a HSA or a health savings account. And if you've got one of those plans, it's a great time. And some people just have their health savings account contributions taken out of their paychecks. But a lot of people just make a contribution at the one time a year. And so this is a great time if you got the cash in hand, put the money in your HSA. Okay.
That's great. And one of the things that I forget about, or not I forget, but it's easy to overlook. HSAs are great, pre-tax. I get a nice tax deduction for it. Everybody knows that, or at least a lot of people do. But then one of the things you forget about is that it also doesn't get subject to Social Security and Medicare tax, right? So it avoids FICA tax, right? So you get a little bit of tax bump there. And when you take it out on the other end, right, to the extent that you have medical expenses, it's tax free, right? So it's kind of like 401k tax deductible going in, right? Tax deferred and then tax free on the other end. It's like Roth IRA and 401k or IRA combined.
It's the
Right?
best kind of
Right.
thing.
So just wanted to point that out. It's like, oh yeah, HSA click. Like, hang on a second. Let's just think about that one. That's really important.
Yeah. HSAs, they're gold. They're in a category all themselves as
Yeah.
far
Yeah.
as
That's awesome.
taxability. Okay. Number 3, I'm going to put in I-bonds. So, and we'll talk a little bit more. We've talked at length about I-bonds. Right now, they're paying about the same as the local bank would pay on a CD. However, the fixed rate is very attractive. And I like I-bonds anyway, because I like to have it. It's easy to take out. I know it's safe. And there's an inflation protection on it, which is I just like them as a vehicle, particularly in this stage of my life.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because having more cash around is a great time. So if it's a great time of life to have more cash around.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's great. And to the extent that somebody's concerned about inflation, right? Again, you're not going to get into political views here, but you go, okay, if inflation comes back because of different taxation and things that go on, then right now, it last year and a half, inflation's not been a big deal. Rates have gone down on I-bonds. If it comes back, having that fixed rate, I think it's 1.2 or 1.3% plus inflation, right? Those I-bonds are a thing for today, of course, but also it's a play for the future. Like if you're concerned about that, that's one to really take a look at, I think. I agree with that.
And the other thing is that I found once I got it set up, it was easy to get the money out. So
Yeah,
you have
yeah.
to have it in there for a year, but I've used some of mine. that I put in during the high inflationary times, and I've used some of it. And so I just wanted to mention that, is that it was as easy as getting money from my high interest savings account. So just want, and that was one of my concerns. Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
So IBANs, Roth or backdoor Roth. That's my number 4.
Yep. Yep.
So you'll know which one you're eligible for, right? And so either one, this year, the maximum if you're under 50 is 7,000. After 50, 8,000.
Yep.
So those are my things. Try to get those checked off your list, and then you'll be good to go with the extra savings for the year.
Yeah. And you know, one of those things is as I think about this, as you were saying these, I'm like, yep, okay, good. That makes sense. Yep, that makes sense. A lot of this, I think, applies to people where you're maybe in those higher earning years, maybe, you know, north of 59 or into your 50s, right? Where you're maxing out 401ks, right? So that's one of the big deals there, right? Maxing out HSAs. And of course, if you're not maxing both of those out, what's right for you is specific to your situation. So we can't, you know, tell you what to do here. And then Roth IRA, backdoor Roth IRA again, assuming that we're looking to pack some pretty good money away here, right? So that's really the focus of a lot of these things. Same thing with I-bonds too, right? They're a great vehicle. There's some limitations, but you go, listen, we're really trying, if I'm trying to pack money away, that these are some great things. And it just, as we talk about this, I just had a conversation recently with somebody about, well, how do I save more money? And I'll just take a step back, and it doesn't have anything to do with financial hygiene. Is saying, like, remember to put your goals first. Like, what are you trying to accomplish? Do you need to save more? And if you don't, then maybe you think about spending some. But if you need to save more, these are, I mean, all the things you listed out, Bridget, are just, you know, exactly the things I'd think about. And the other thing I had for people that maybe aren't at that spot, or sort of across the board, that you made me think of as I'm thinking about, all right, what do I talk with people about early in the year, is taking a look at what your withholding is on your paychecks when you're still working. And okay, we haven't done 2024's tax return yet, right? We're recording early in 25. We don't know what it looks like. So it's not about the tax return necessarily, but you can look back at your 23 return, or when you get your 24 return done, you can see. And what I like to look at is that line that says, what was my total tax, right? And it used to be line 60 before they changed the forms a long time ago here now for me. But what is my total tax? And I look at that like, okay, what am I making? If my total tax was $20,000, probably withheld from my checks throughout the year, and my income was 200, then my effective tax rate is something like 10%, right? And if I'm paid 20,000 in taxes and my income was something like 100, then I'm paying like 20% in tax, right? Just a real simple, yeah, you got to do a little math, but a real simple. And I'll take a look back and say, okay, the last couple of years, geez, Bridget, looks like you were paying your tax compared to your wages were about 20%.
Okay.
If that's the case, then I want to look at our pay stub here early in the year and say, what was my income for this pay period? And what did they withhold for federal taxes? I'm talking here. If I made, you know, $4,000, did they withhold about 20%? And it doesn't have to be exact, but boy, it can be surprising. And you and I both do tax planning for clients. I usually tend to do it at the end of the year, which is great for making decisions, right, about things. But throughout the year, we've had folks where they go, oh, something changed in withholding, and you didn't pay attention to it because you're just getting your paychecks. And suddenly you're way behind or way ahead on the other side. You go, geez, if my typical tax is only 10% and I'm withholding 20%, I don't need to get a big refund. But that can be one where it's just an eyeball sort of thing. But to kind of know in general, are we going to be in the ballpark for the year? It is one thing that we found to be pretty helpful for folks over time.
I think that's a great idea. Cool. Sounds like a great time to wrap it up. So there's our 5 tips for how to maximize your savings and financial situation at the beginning of the year. I'm Bridget Sullivan Vermont. I've got a family financial planning practice in Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm John Shear. I've got a family financial planning practice in Middleton, Wisconsin. And both Bridget and I are taking on new clients. Would love to hear from you if you're wanting to reach out. But if you're looking for an advisor in your local area, we're both members of the Alliance of Comprehensive Planners. And if you want to find an advisor that thinks in a similar fashion to us, you can check out acplanners.org.
Please subscribe.